everyone, it's me. This is You Can Handle the Truth. I'm Kathy Afzali. Tonight might be the craziest idea I've had yet for an episode. I'm actually correlating my very special guest with the Book of Esther. Now, before you raise an eyebrow, yes, I know some people once debated whether Esther even belonged in the Bible because it never mentions God. But that's the beauty of it. It's a story of divine providence, of God quietly working behind the scenes and arranging every moment long before anyone could see it. And that brings me to today's guest, my husband, David Afzali. His story is one of courage, redemption, and an unseen hand guiding every step. It's about how God knew David long before David knew God, and how one daring act, a choice that would change the entire trajectory of his life, was orchestrated by a God who never stopped pursuing him. A quiet prayer in a dorm room, a rescue written in heaven, and a reminder that even when we don't see him, God is always there writing the story. So, without further ado, please welcome my husband, the love of my life, my best friend, the only man patient enough to live with me, David Afzali.
Hi, people. It is I, David Afzali.
Welcome, honey. Welcome to You Can Handle the Truth.
Thank you.
And
it's
welcome to your office.
Yes, my office. It is now You Can Handle the Truth. It's
the podcast studio, but we do allow him to come back in here and
once
work
in a while
on the other side, the non-podcast side.
Correct.
So thank you, honey, sharing your office and sharing your life story with us today, because a lot of people just think that he's just the arm candy, and you are arm candy, but you also have a story that actually on our first date you told me, and it made me fall in love with him. So hopefully you'll fall in love with him too.
Oy vey.
And so it's really the story of how you came to this country. It's very compelling. And I will probably interject because you tend to leave things out. So I'll kind of come in and remind you of some things. But why don't we start? And welcome, honey.
Hello, love.
Hi. He must be buttering me up for something. So, it's Tehran, Iran. It is pre the fall of the Shah of Iran. So the Shah is in power, and life is beautiful for a 15-year-old boy living in Tehran. And you're at school, and tell us what happens.
So there's one day we're playing soccer, running around like crazy people as we are. And I look at the wall, and there's a sign. On that sign, it says, if you want to be an exchange student to the United States of America, please come to room 55. I said, wow, that's a fine how do you do.
Now, did it say to the United States of America?
Well, the exchange student is either Europe or U.S., but
Okay.
I had always wanted to come to the U.S. because my mom said ever since I learned how to speak, I kept saying I want to go to the U.S.
Well, she has said that to me too, so that must be true. So from a young age, you just wanted to come to the United States of America, and you see a sign for AFS, and then what?
So I keep that in the back of my head. After the class is finished, I go to room 55, and there's a guy sitting there and says, are you interested? I said, well, what's happening and what do we need to do? So it's a very, very long process. You have to take exams within that particular school. Then there is, in that county, there are like different high schools that are, everyone who's interested will take exam. Then from the whole capital city, and then the whole country, and then, anyway, there were 16 people after taking 59 exams. I'm making it up, but it's...
So how many people altogether took the exam
So they were over 200 students all over the country that wanted to take or go to either Europe or U.S.
Okay.
So I was lucky enough that I was able to pass the exams, and there were 16 kids selected to go to the U.S., and I think 10 or 12 to Europe. So, but then we had to pass psychological examinations.
Oh, my.
By the exchange program.
You sure you passed, honey?
Yeah, I don't know how. that was a God thing, yes?
Yeah. Good.
So we thankfully passed. But then there was the other hurdle. We had to fill out this form, and the exchange program was sending it out to families all over the U.S. and to see who wanted me. It wasn't like that I said I want to go here or there. So thankfully, there was a family in North Little Rock, Arkansas, that they said, we want this type of a student, and we matched. When then we exchanged emails. Now we exchanged letters.
There was no email in 1977, but yes, exchange letters.
Exchange letters. And when the exchange program came to me and said, you are leaving July 17, then I went and I told my parents.
Oh, my gosh. So you had already taken the exams. You're already set to go.
Correct.
And then you break it to your mom and dad.
Yes.
Oh, guess what? I'm
Well,
leaving.
because I needed to get my passport. So they had to, come with me to get the passport and all that stuff.
So you're still 15 at this point.
I'm still 15 and a half or 16-ish because I left when I was 16 and a half. So, and obviously my dad didn't want me to leave without having a terminating degree like diploma in high school. But my mom said, okay, so what? Let him go. So I got on the plane. I remember waving at them and going up the escalator and got on the plane with the 16 kids, and we stopped over at Shannon, Ireland, and then we came to JFK, and for orientation, we went to C.W. Post College. We stayed there for 2-3 days, and then they put us on a bus, and we went to St. Louis. Then from St. Louis, we got on a train, and I ended up in the good old North Little Rock, Arkansas, with the family.
So your high school was called?
Northeast High.
Northeast High in Little Rock, Arkansas. So what
No.
shock.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
Little Rock and North Little Rock.
Aha. Okay. In North Little Rock, Arkansas. And so you've gone from Tehran. Now our audience should know, and this is also an important piece of the story, this is before the Iranian Revolution. So when David Afzali left Iran, it was this beautiful westernized country, really.
Used to be called the Second Paris in Middle East.
The Second Paris, and now you're in the U.S. of A., and you speak some English, or you...
People say you speak English. Yes, we had studied it, but not really for the conversational piece.
Right.
So I'm staying, the first weekend, I'm staying at this family that they had a pair of twins and an older brother, and the sister, Jody was her name, she was a pom-pom girl. And the whole weekend I heard, "Go Chargers, go." I didn't know what it meant. So Monday comes, we go to the counselor's office, and she says, hello. She says, do you want to give a speech? And what the heck do I know what that means? I shook my head, sure.
So this is like a school rally kind of
Yes,
situation
this is
before
the first
a big game.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, well, it wasn't a big game. It was just the beginning of school year.
Okay.
So the principal and vice principal talking to the kids, welcoming them for the new, school year. And I'm up sitting with the principal, vice principal, and the counselor. And I'm in the la-la land. I'm looking around. It's a new thing. I look at 3,000 students. I said, wow, this is fabulous. And then all of a sudden, I hear my name. The counselor says, okay, now here, take the microphone. And I don't know. I take the microphone. I stand up. I look at all the kids, and I don't know what the heck to say. I say, hello, hi, this is my name, and go Chargers, go. And guess what? The place erupted for 5 minutes. It was so fabulous. I looked around. I said, what a country. I'm staying.
What a country. Go, Chargers, go.
That's it, yes.
Well, we'll have to make sure your friends in Little
to watch, yes,
Rock,
right.
Make sure they watch this and see if they actually remember it the same way you do.
Yes.
All right. So immediately you're like the superstar of North Little Rock, Arkansas. And
I was a commodity. I mean, if I had gotten somewhere else, I don't think I would have wanted to stay in the U.S. They loved me. I loved them. We went to different high schools every weekend. We started talking, and at the end of each speech, I used to say, okay, girls, are you ready? This is my phone number. And I went to 8 proms.
You went to 8 proms. He had plenty of girlfriends, evidently.
I guess.
At one point, you even stole a cop car, but I won't.
Let's not go there.
I won't talk about that. But no one caught you, thank goodness. Thank goodness there were no cell phones around in those days, recording some of our behavior in high school. But so you had a great time at North Little Rock, and evidently that was your first introduction to Christianity. Because remember, Tehran, there was no Christianity. So.
Yeah, so I was living with basically 3 families that year. One, I think it was like about 3 and 4 months with this physician, but he was working for VA hospitals, so he was transferred to Texas. So I couldn't stay with the family, so I stayed with a teacher of mine, and then from there I stayed with a minister. And meanwhile, I used to go, the kids used to take me everywhere that they went. I tagged along, and one of the places I went to, Young Life. Excellent. I didn't know what Young Life was, but apparently it was my first introduction to Bible and all that.
Interestingly enough, because our obviously our growing up is very different, but I had a lot of touching upon a Christianity, but no one really ever witnessed to me, quite frankly. But then you got Young Life, which I never did in California. I mean, you had but so that's really, really good. So even though you were not necessarily converted to Christianity or having, a prayer of repentance, you're having an introduction to faith.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. So then
I get a call from my mom. She says to me, it would be best if you can stay, because the political scene is changing a bit. And I didn't know anything. And I said, yes, absolutely. She said, worst comes to worst, if you can't stay, you'll come back. But try to stay. So from then on, I had to plan as to what to do and how to stay. I didn't know anything. I was just a young kid. And that's where the hand of God comes in.
And that really was, there's some pivotal moments. I mean, that call with your mom, basically telling you not to come home. Her version is a little bit different than yours, but basically saying that it wouldn't be safe to come home. And it turns out that had you gone home, you would have probably never come back because of
you would have been going to the army,
to the Iranian army and the war with Iran and Iraq and all of that sort of thing. So here's where it gets dicey, folks. So you knew you were going to stay, but you didn't know how you were going to do it. So let's talk about the plan.
So the exchange program was in a way that they took us to 2 or 3 other states on our way home. So we.
Now, when is this now?
This is end of the school year. This is like
1970.
1978.
78, okay.
So we went from Arkansas to Tennessee. We stayed for like a weekend with this family, and then we went to North Carolina. We stayed with another family, and oddly enough, we came to Bethesda, Maryland. That was the last stop. We get there on Friday, and on Tuesday, I'm about to leave the country.
So Tuesday is your flight, and
Yes.
right now it's Friday.
This is Friday.
So Tuesday's your flight back to Tehran, and he's in Bethesda, Maryland, which is not very far from where we live today, which is kind
Yes.
of funny. All right.
So on Sunday, I said, okay, this is it. I got to make a decision what to do. I put my important paperwork in my camera case, and the family that I was staying, I said, hey, I'm going to just go to reflect about my stay. I'm going to go to D.C., visit here and there, and I'll be back that afternoon, that evening. Oddly enough, they said, okay. I got into the next cab and told the cab to take me to the airport. And he says to me, which one? I said, I don't know. Take me to the big one.
To the big airport, okay.
So we went to the big airport,
Which was?
Dulles.
Right.
And I looked around. I don't know if many people are too young to remember this, but there was an airline called People's Express.
I know it well. $25 tickets.
Yes,
I remember that.
looked.
East
The
Coast.
cheapest flight was $25 to Newark, New Jersey. I said, fabulous. That's where I want to go. So I got on the bus. I got on the plane.
So, honey, I just want to backtrack a little bit, and I'm sorry to interrupt. Tell me what was in your backpack.
That wasn't a backpack. It was a camera case.
It was
I had
a camera
my
case.
camera. I had my passport. I had my grades. I had my SAT. And really, that's it.
So you took the SATs, and you had basically the equivalent of a high school diploma. At
Not
that
the
point.
equivalent. This is what I wanted to say, or maybe I didn't say it. So when you are... So I was in 10th grade,
Yeah.
and I was supposed to go to 11th grade. But the counselor asked me, so I'm registering it for 11th. Something in the back of my head said, no, 12th. Because I knew if I needed to stay, I needed to have a degree. So she said, okay. So I went from 10th grade to 12th grade, and I got the diploma, high school diploma.
High school diploma. And people, just so you know, he has shared with me that the math that he was doing in high school
Oh, gosh.
in North Little Rock, Arkansas, was the math that he was doing in like
5th grade.
in like 5th grade in Iran. So anyway,
I took-
you were well equipped to be a graduate.
I took American history. I took British literature.
Wow, okay.
That was the hardest class, not
Yeah.
math and algebra and calculus. It
Yeah.
was the easy ones.
Right. Okay.
So
So you're at Dulles Airport. You get the cheapest flight that you can get, and it's to where?
Newark, New Jersey.
So to Newark, New Jersey.
And I'm sitting on the plane. I paid my money. But now I needed to find out where was a good university to go to. No one told me Harvard, Rutgers, Columbia, none of that. They just told me to go to FDU. And I asked 20 people, and everybody said FDU. I said, well, that's the place I'm ending up.
So again, the providential hand of God, because everyone on that plane seemed to be saying Fairleigh Dickinson University. And nobody said Rutgers, nobody said Harvard, all those things like you were saying. But again, even though, as I mentioned in my intro, even though you didn't necessarily know God, God knew you. And God had his hand in your life, whether you knew it or not. And I would imagine there were some people praying for you back in Arkansas as well. So meanwhile, all right, FDU.
So don't forget, I called the family that I left, and I told them I will call the exchange program and fix things up. Don't worry about me. I'm good.
Right, because they must have been very sick.
Right.
He left, just so everyone knows, you left all your clothes behind. Did you have any clothes? You had no clothes. You had no clothes but the clothes you were wearing.
Correct.
How much money did you have in your backpack?
100 or so.
So he had $100. He had the clothes on his back, his SAT scores, his high school diploma, and a camera.
That's it.
That's what you left for New Jersey.
And passport and all
and your
that.
passport and your ID. Okay.
So I spent the night at the airport. The next day I get to a cab and I said, hey, take me to FDU. And then again he says, which one? I said, I don't know.
Which FDU?
I said, the closest one.
Right. The Fairleigh Dickinson has, what, 2 campuses?
It had
or
3 different campuses.
3 campuses. All right.
So it took me to the closest one. And I go in to the administration office and the admissions department. I knock on the door and I said, I'm here to get accepted. And they look funny and they say, you mean you want to check the status of your application? I said, no, I just want to get accepted. So needless to say, by the end of the day, I was accepted.
Okay. First of all, people, I think you need to hear how crazy this is. He walks into Fairleigh Dickinson University to the admissions office. He's got nothing but a backpack, and he says, I'm here to be accepted to college. And by the end of the day, you are accepted. So apparently they liked the SAT scores.
That, or it was summer and everything was lax.
Maybe they were lax. They liked your scores. They liked your grades. And if anything, they probably thought, who is this kid, this crazy kid? But hey, we'll accept him.
So, but the question was, they didn't ask me how I was going to pay for it. And at that time, I believe it was $300 per credit.
Wow.
So I didn't know anything about anything. And they even asked me, do you want to stay in the dorms? I said, yes.
So stay in the dorms. I've got $100. Is that going to work?
And they never asked about money because I guess, as I said, it was summer. At any rate, I go into the dorm. I'm staying with this guy named Brian, really big, athletic guy.
And where was Brian from?
He's from Jamaica.
He was Jamaican, a guy named Brian. Okay.
And so I see him every morning or afternoon. He goes and plays soccer. I didn't know anything about anything. I said, so what are you doing? He says, oh, I'm on the soccer team. I was recruited. I have scholarship. And I said, okay, so what is a scholarship again? And he said, well, that's where they pay for your room, board, tuition. And I said, oh, I play soccer. He looked at me funny and says, yeah, no, they recruited me and they came and they got me and I'm important. Yeah, to that effect.
This is for the big boys. Right.
So I said, okay, so where do you guys play soccer so I can talk to the coach? So he tells me, go to this place. So the next day I go in and they're all playing around and I find this guy in authority. I go say hello. And he said,
is that the coach in
authority? That's the coach.
Okay.
And I looked at him, I don't know, from nowhere. I said, I'm here to play soccer for you. And again, he looks at me and he says, Sonny, we are done. We don't have anyone. We don't need anyone, and we're done. I said, out of nowhere, I said, well, if you want to win championship, you have me on your team. I said, and I'm staying with Brian, and I turned around and left, not knowing anything.
Okay, honey, that was pretty bold and pretty out there, considering you probably hadn't played soccer since elementary school. But
well, no, honey. I played soccer. Even in Arkansas, I played soccer by myself, and I got some people to join the club, I should call it. So I had.
Okay. So
I still had my skills.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So anyway, Ryan comes to the dorm, and he says, I don't know what you said to the coach, but guess what? On Tuesday, we have an open tryout. at 10 o'clock. I said, what's open tryout? He says, that's when you come in and you show what you got. I said, fabulous. Now remember, I didn't even have boots,
What did
cleats.
you do?
I looked around, I went everywhere, and I asked people if I could borrow their cleats.
So you had a pair of borrowed cleats.
Correct.
You know, this reminds me of the story of the Olympian. It's I think it was Chariots of Fire.
Right.
That he won the Olympics with the borrowed shoes. Anyway, sorry, honey, keep going.
Yes.
Keep going.
So I didn't think anything of it. So here we are over the weekend, and I'm anxious and waiting till Tuesday to show up. And so I said, okay, God, if you're there, you can hear me. Let's make this happen and let's get it going. So Tuesday arrived. I go there. There are activities, training happening. The coach tells me to go participate. So I must have played the best soccer game in my entire life, because at the end of the day, he came in, shook my hand, and said, you got a scholarship for the 4 years, and I went home. That's it.
So, okay. So on Friday Thursday you walk into Fairleigh Dickinson University admissions. They give you an admission. You go to a dorm room. You have a roommate who's a soccer player on a scholarship. You decide that you're going to audition, well, I should say try out for the soccer team.
Yes.
There are no tryouts, but they do a tryout for you.
Open tryout,
And
yes.
you go to the coach and you say, if you want to win soccer games, you'll give me a tryout. Very bold, by the way. And then you go to the tryout and you get a 4-year free ride scholarship.
That's about gist of it, yeah.
I mean, sweetie, only in America and only through the divine providence of God would something like that happen.
Yes, indeed.
Would you agree?
Hallelujah.
So I don't even know how to explain to the audience how deeply moving this story is for me personally, because if this event wouldn't have happened, you would have somehow been deported or had to go back to Iran, and you were able to stay here because you were a student, and then you got amnesty and from Reagan, and all was well, and you ended up becoming a proud American. And I was lucky that I got to be there at your ceremony.
Because God knew you were going to pray for me to come to your life. And there I was.
And there you was. So there you were. There you was. Anyway, I just know that even when we don't know God, God knows us. And God knew you, honey. He heard you. That little prayer, whatever meager prayer it was enough to get your attention and to alert you. And it's just kind of funny to me always that Christians kept popping into your life, and you even dated a few Christian girls, and then you met me, the little evangelist.
I
know.
know.
It was all
Go
over.
figure. Yes.
It was either convert or die. No, I'm kidding. So I do want to read a little bit of Esther. And honey, thank you for sharing your story. And I hope our audience understands the absolute impossibility of all of it. And, you know, the reason I pulled up the Book of Esther is just again, it's not that God was the center of the story. God takes the back seat in the story and is managing and is orchestrating a story for his glory. And it's not until, 40 years later now, or 50 years really, almost, that we can look back and see God's fingerprints on all of it. And so I'm so deeply grateful that this event happened. And honestly, honey, when you told me this story on our first date, you told me the story after you got the speeding ticket on our first date.
I did?
Yes. And we ended up in a nice little restaurant in New Jersey, and you told me the story, and then we kissed. Racy. Okay.
That was Annabelle.
Annabelle's filming, and she's saying, "Oh, yuck, Mom, please don't talk." Kids will be kids. All right. I did want to read the Book of Esther, chapter 4, verses 12 and 14. And so the story goes that Esther was a Jewish girl that ended up through a beauty contest being able to marry the king. And it was King Xerxes, like the first, one of those kings. And there was an edict put out to kill all of the Jewish people, of which Esther would have been one of those Jews that would have been killed. And her uncle Mordecai implores her to approach the king to save. And so I just want to read a line from it, which I think is so appropriate for my honey and his story. And it's for our audience out there, it's Esther chapter 4, 12 through 14. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place. But you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to royal position for such a time as this. And honey, you didn't save any lives except for your own, of course. And through the course of the decision you made to get on that $25 plane ride to
New Jersey,
to Newark, New Jersey, you saved my life too. So it was God's providence.
But actually, you saved my life.
Oh my gosh, we're getting really mushy here. We saved each other.
Yes, we
Well,
did.
first God saved me.
Yes.
Then I witnessed to you. Then
Yes.
God saved you. God
Yes.
saved us.
Right.
So divine providence. He's real, folks. He is in your life, whether you see him or not. He was in David Afzali's life before David Afzali saw him or knew it was him, but he knew that something had happened very miraculous that day. And to go to college in the United States and go for free in that way is just an unbelievable story. And maybe the major motion picture is on the way, honey.
Well, I hope so. Producers, directors,
All right, there you go.
call us.
All right.
We're ready.
You can consult.
I can even act as me.
You can do a cameo in the movie, like in Sound of Music, how
Yes.
Maria von Trapp, she's in the one of the background scenes of Do Re Mi, I think.
Yes.
So anyway, folks, this is You Can Handle the Truth. We were so blessed to have my best friend, my honey, and a guy with a pretty compelling story that changed the course of his life and, of course, mine and Annabelle's. And, well, because of this story, Annabelle and
Mary Kate.
and Mary Kate have life, and we're so blessed. Folks, what you heard here is the truth, and you can handle the truth.